the numbers for you right now, and it does look like Democrat Hillary Clinton.
And she caused the violence.
Racist,
crooked,
deplorable,
liar,
outrageous,
pathetic,
Islamophobic, you name it.
crooked Hillary Clinton.
Donald has issues.
Get that guy out of here, police. Thank you. Get him out.
Agentes, saquen a este hombre de aquí. Vengan adelante. Rápido, rápido. Ha sido muy revoltoso.
It is fascinating being in the US right now because I think many Americans don't understand how the rest of the world looks to America and understands that whoever is the president of the United States impacts all of us. I don't think anybody can quite believe that the race is as close as it is. I mean, I truly would not want to bet money on who's going to win on Tuesday. And that's kind of astonishing, seeing as the candidate, one candidate is the most qualified candidate we have ever had in the whole history of the United States. And then there's somebody who is, I don't think, as qualified, being polite. But he understands digital media. He got more free advertising from the media just talking about him. He paid very little money on television advertising because he knew every time he tweeted, the news media would cover him. He is very, very smart, and he is somebody who can operate in the digital environment in a way that we've never seen anybody like him. A combination of digital media, social platforms, and the fact that we live in a globalized world has changed society in so many ways that many people are terrified. And Donald Trump has appeared as somebody who said, I will take us back to a time when you had jobs, when we didn't have immigrants from South America. He's telling them what they want to hear. So the other reason that I think Tuesday is so up in the air is that we can't trust polling in the same way because polling has changed. So the polls for Brexit, we were surprised by. Who knows what will happen on Tuesday?
Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. Have to get together. To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation.
El mundo se ha vuelto impredecible y, a falta de referentes, anda peligrosamente desorientado. Los grandes medios de comunicación, que hasta hace unos años ejercían el monopolio de la información y la opinión, han perdido ya toda credibilidad. El nuevo periodismo digital aún no ha encontrado una fórmula solvente que le permita transitar sin tropiezos en ese espacio de independencia y contrapoder que tantos profesionales y lectores anhelan. Ante este panorama, toca hacer examen de conciencia. ¿Qué rol juegan las redes sociales en la producción de noticias y su difusión? ¿Quién controla qué? Hablamos con la experta en periodismo digital y redes sociales, Claire Wardle, que fue invitada a impartir una conferencia en la Facultad de Ciencias de la Comunicación de la Universidad de Málaga.
The huge shift has been the end of journalists as gatekeepers. So journalists used to decide what's interesting today, and they would fill a newspaper with that information, or they would fill a 7 p.m. news bulletin with that information. The shift now is twofold, is that A, anybody can publish, and secondly, even if they're not publishing, they can see information unfurling at the same time as the journalist. So if there was a breaking news event in Madrid today, I could go to Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and I could see updates from the police, from eyewitnesses, from the government. I would see all of it at the same time as the journalists. So the role for journalists today is how do they make sense of all of that noise for the general public? How do they verify those tweets? How do they check those photos? How do they tell the audience what's true and what's false? But also, how do they make context? How do they connect those dots and say, that tweet is connected to this Facebook post, and The relevance to this is because we're seeing similar patterns to 4 years ago. Traditional news organizations that still think that what they do is the most important and they sit over here and they expect the audience to come to them, I think those types of news organizations are going to fail. And now anybody can be in this space and be an expert on something. So anybody who can show expertise can say, no, actually, I'm an economist and I can show you that that tax plan is incorrect. Or, no, I actually used to work for that organization and we shouldn't necessarily read this report in that way. So it does create a kind of a new democratization in terms of news sources that's really exciting. But we're working our way through all of this, and who to trust is a big question, I think, right now. There is this idea from the audience that a photograph is truth. This idea, well, I'm seeing with my own eyes. But actually, every photograph is a frame, and we can't see what we don't know is around the outside of that image. So we have a number of challenges now in terms of we're in a more visual culture, but that doesn't mean that we're seeing more truth. We're seeing more photos being manipulated. We're seeing more people use images in ways that supports their own position. We've talked about media literacy for a long time. How do we teach students how to ascertain which newspapers to trust, to ascertain what somebody means when they put out a certain piece of media? Now, in the world of social media, we have to update our curriculum and we have to teach students how to analyze metadata, how to examine a photo to see whether it has been photoshopped. So media literacy has been a subject that we've always taught. Now we need to update to ensure that we're teaching students the new forms of technology and how that is changing what's truthful and how we find out whether or not something can be trusted. When people sign up for social platforms, we sign up and there's a contract there that's unspoken, which says Facebook doesn't charge me for using Facebook, but the flip side is that it's collecting lots and lots of data about me. And certainly all of the platforms know more about me than almost any member of my family. And in a way that it's hard to even understand how my Google searches can be matched with where I check in restaurants, can be checked with where I'm traveling from. And so all of that is potentially a problem. From a citizen perspective, we need to make sure that our data is safe, that our data is not going to be used in certain ways. But right now, in 2016, we don't really know how companies are using our data, how they're sharing our data. Now, if there was somebody here from Google or Facebook, they would say, we collect data to give you a better experience. The reason that Facebook is so addictive is because they give me information every day that they know I want to consume. And it works. I do check Facebook multiple times a day because it does serve me great journalism, great information. I can connect with friends from around the world. The side effect is all of these companies have so much data that individually it's not dangerous, but when it's put together and aggregated, they know so much about me. And we're in a time right now in 2016 of putting pressure on the companies to be more transparent about what they do with our data. And as a society, we're working out how to encrypt our data, how to be more sensible about the information we share on our phones. We should turn location off. Are we giving away too much information? So historians will look back at this period and say, oh, that was when we were figuring everything out. So we do need to be concerned about big data, but it's a deal we're doing with the devil. I see technology giving us so many new opportunities. I think artificial intelligence will help us live lives that will be easier, and it will be fantastic in a way that we can only dream. But, and it's a big but, all of the things that technology can bring us will always come with new ethical challenges. I see a world where we will be able to understand and have greater levels of empathy about other people. And I think now our technology allows our world to almost be smaller sometimes, and for us to close borders and to think about just our next door neighbors. And I hope that in the future we'll have virtual reality rooms where we can walk in and really experience what it's like to live somewhere else. Because I think we see the world getting richer and poorer, essentially. We see the difference between rich and poor growing. So for me as a society, my dream is that we close that gap. And I think technology can play a role in telling those stories and connecting people in different ways, but we have to get it right. And sometimes technology, when it's owned by corporations who are interested in profit, we don't always think about what's best for the public. We have to be careful. Every month we see changes to technology. We have to think every time, okay, we shouldn't just jump on this because it's new. What are the long-term implications for this as a society?